Cool. Hey, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Unfiltered. I'm here with Nazish, Anam, Tamor, and myself, Masani. Today's topic is a little more lighthearted. I think we've definitely seen a rise in weddings during the pandemic.
Yeah.
All the things that you were saying earlier. But with that, I think it is a more of a lighthearted topic to talk about. You know, you've seen all these weddings, and just like the Islamic way to do it. And then, how would you kind of want your wedding done? Like, would you want a bigger wedding or a smaller wedding? But I think it's really important to start off with just like the facts first in this situation. So Nazish, Anam, you guys want to tell us like the Islamic way to do it?
Sure. So like Masani said, obviously there's going to be, in this topic, culture and religion is heavily mixed in. So I think we thought it was important to just kind of lay the facts straight, at least for what an Islamic marriage kind of looks like. So we found a few quotes from the Quran, and I'm going to read one of the, and I'm on the phone because I don't want to butcher it, but one was that let the rich man spend according to his means, and the man whose resources are restricted. Let him spend according to what Allah has given him. Allah puts no burden on any person beyond what he has given to him. So this is from Surah Al-Talaq, and then...
Yeah, I'll read the second
Okay.
one. It says, it has also been reported from the Messenger of Allah that he stated, Walima on this first day is... Oh my god, I messed up. Sorry.
It's okay.
Can we start over?
You can continue.
No, we can start over. Come on, I messed up.
What are you guys
okay, hold
doing,
on.
man?
What's up, bro?
Is this thing still alive? No, yo, is that dead?
No, it's still alive.
I can't see the screen.
We're not working with a lot right now.
What's going
Come on,
on?
come on, come on. I just have to...
The first goal was good on him. You messed that up. That first like.
All right,
I
whatever.
did?
feel like
Whatever.
No, the first goal, like the first.
Okay, whatever.
Oh, I'm
we're
sorry.
back again.
By the
No
way,
big deal.
my friend Abia, she's so cute. We've been like DMing each other on Instagram.
Really?
You have a friend named Abia?
Yeah.
Sounds like a Pokemon.
Okay, so let's get this done now.
Okay, yeah, come
All
on,
right.
come on, we got
Cool. All right. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered, guys. I'm here today with Nazish, Anam, Tamor, and myself, Masani. So today we're going to talk about weddings. With the rise in COVID cases, we've also definitely seen a rise in weddings.
Amongst our like friend group and stuff like that. All mashallah,
Mashallah.
alhamdulillah though, mashallah.
Yeah,
all,
no hate,
only
all
blessings.
love,
Only
huge
blessings, all
blessings.
love.
But I think that also gives rise to talking about, the Islamic way to host a wedding and to carry out all the cultural traditions, but still do them in an Islamic way. Anam and Nazish, you guys have been talking about the fact that you guys, you would look through different hadiths and the Quran to see what was like the proper way to conduct these things. So I kind of want to give you guys a second to lay down the Islamic facts before we talk about personal preferences. Because I think our personal
Yeah.
preferences, like, yeah, there's the religious side of it, but there's also the cultural side of it and what you grew up with. So
Yeah, and I think Masani said it really well, where there is a difference between obviously having a wedding that's filled with cultural traditions and a wedding that's more religious based, and obviously everyone has their opinions on what kind of wedding they want, but we're here kind of to at least set the facts straight of what a religious Islamic wedding should look like. So Nazish and I found some hadiths and surahs that we're going to read straight from our phone because we don't want to butcher it. But the first one says, let the rich man spend according to his means, and the man whose resources are restricted, let him spend according to what Allah has given him. Allah puts no burden on any person beyond what he has given him. And this is from Surah Al-Talaq.
And then there's another one from Surah Al-Furqan that says, and those who, when they spend, are neither extravagant nor miserly, but hold a medium way between those extremes. So I guess that does pretty much like define what a wedding should look like.
Especially when it comes to how much we should be spending. I think one of the biggest things when it comes to our weddings, and obviously all four of us are Desi, so we're going to talk about Desi weddings.
Desi culture.
Desi culture, very extravagant, right? And I think, I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks this, but from seeing it throughout the years, I feel like it's kind of getting more and more extravagant. There's more. It's not just the shadi or the nikah anymore. It's like mayun, dhoki number 2, dhoki number 3, mehndi number 6. Like there's so many events now, right? So I think just reminding ourselves that Islamically, it's important to know that you should be spending
Only what you can afford. Don't try to go out of your way, basically.
Yeah. So
do what you can. Is what
Alright.
pretty much Islam says.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I feel like now that you guys have laid kind of like the groundwork, right? There's no you can't dispute that. That's kind of just
yeah.
What
pretty
it is,
set in
yeah.
stone.
Yeah.
But let's keep it a buck. Like regardless of what it says, people always have their own personal opinions, personal preferences. Obviously, the most pious of us are going to follow it, but it doesn't always work out that way.
So what are your own personal preferences? I know I'm kind of interested in your end because you know, congratulations, like you got married in the summer. So, you know, what was your preference? Did you get it?
Okay, so yeah, I got, alhamdulillah, I just had my nikah done in June. I had the standard ceremony, like the actual, you know, signing of the papers, all of that at the masjid. And then we had like a dawat. It was less than 100 people at like a restaurant slash banquet, and we fed our close family and friends. And that was a small nikah, like that was a small marriage ceremony. If you had asked me when I was little, even maybe before I found someone, I always wanted a big event, right? I wanted to be super extravagant, like all of the stuff, right? As I got older and I don't know if this sounds really cliche, but I think after finding someone and kind of realizing more on what the actual marriage should be about, and like, you know, the beauty of, you know, literally, you know, completing half your deen, I think it kind of emphasized more on, I just want to get my nikah done and not care too much about like how big it is or what I have. And regardless, I still had like a dhoki, and you know, I had a little mehndi at my house before, so I'll be honest, I still had those cultural events, but I didn't put too much emphasis on, you know, how extravagant my event was when it came to nikah. And inshallah next year when I do my rukhsati and walima, and we'll get to that, you know, like we'll get to that later on. That's kind of my hope too, is not to make it so extravagant. Just reminding myself like what the whole purpose of these events are. But it's definitely hard. So it's a lot easier said than done, especially when we have, you know, our desi families and culture and all of that.
Yeah, Nazish.
Okay, so I'm pretty big on tradition. I don't know if you guys know that, but I would say I do want a big wedding in the sense where like having the events and the people, but not in a way where it's like all glitz and glamour and, you know, just all fancy and whatever. Just like having all the events and having a lot of people. Yeah, I want a big wedding.
Cool. So I wanted to start with them real quick because I feel like, especially in just weddings in general, I think girl either has more say or it's more tuned out for her. And I feel like a lot of, as a man, I don't know what your opinion is here, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you want a bigger wedding, a smaller wedding? Want a wedding?
From the jump, I'm gonna say like I personally don't have a huge preference. If she wants, whoever Mrs. is, if she wants big, we can go big. But me personally, if it was up to me, I would go small because one, I don't really have a huge family here. It's just me and my parents, one uncle, my sister. So I don't have this super big khandan, like I don't want to use the Hindu word parivar and all that, whatever. It's like that word is like so deep. But no, I don't have all that, so I'm cool with a small wedding, and it's just I feel like it's more feasible. In my opinion, I like it, and I like to keep things small. There'll be more like sincerity in it. I feel. I don't think the purpose of I don't see the purpose of having a big wedding with some just random people and stuff like that who don't really feel for you and stuff like that. I want to keep it like tight knit, and I can see the emotion in everyone's face because they're close to me and they actually know me as a person. They actually feel for me. I've been to a lot of weddings where I don't really know the person as well, but I like got an invite and I'm just not there. Like I'm just there for the food, to be honest with you. But so me personally, I would be with small.
Yeah, dude, I think it's interesting though because having known you for as long as I have, I kind of felt like all that stuff that you're gonna say, like I knew you're gonna spew it out. I thought to come in from word A to the very last word. So I think that suits you and your personality as a whole too. But I think I'm gonna be on the opposite end of you, where I'd say like, you know, I probably would want a bigger wedding. But again, I think it comes back to like, you know, what does your spouse want? What does your family want? What does her family want? I think that plays a huge role. But I think you guys are putting up a case here. I'm hoping that someone can convince the other side. But so I feel like one of the first things I'm gonna say to you is because you're saying like, you know, you don't want all these random people there. I feel like there's so many people that like our parents might know that are random to us that, you know, really aren't random. Like we just had someone in our family get married recently, and they postponed a couple of their events just so like COVID could go out of the way. And I know firsthand how many people that didn't catch an invite, and they're so upset because like, oh, you know, like I knew you growing up, and like I've been to this, and this. And it's like, well, you know, COVID, but I feel like that's one of the biggest reasons that like I would rather just have a big wedding, you know.
Just make sure everyone's there, so no one has to say.
Yeah, you know, like, because I mean, to me, it's like there's so many people that played a part in your life. Like, yeah, I'm sure you can catch an invite, you can be there.
I mean, here's the thing. I wouldn't mind having a big wedding in terms of the amount of people I invite, but then you also have to, for me at least, I also look at the scale. I mean, we all know it's not cheap anymore, right? Cost per plate, we were talking about this earlier. I don't know what it is, honestly. Like,
60 for
it's
big
something
things.
crazy, right? So it's like putting into perspective, if you have easily with our DC, weddings, we're known to having big weddings, right? For us, 300 to 350 is pretty small, right? Quote unquote small or medium. So right there, I can't do math, but whatever that is, and then on top of that, decor and all these things, is it even worth having a wedding that, if you can afford it, right? Going back to the surah, if you can afford it, go for it. But if you know that, okay, after having this event, we're gonna be kind of, paycheck to paycheck, we're gonna have to postpone our honeymoon. For me, that's kind of when I ask myself, is it really worth it? And I'm just curious on what you guys have to say about that.
I agree with you on that. Like, it's not really mandatory at all. I was just thinking, like, I've been to a lot of weddings recently, and it's like, I think to myself, like, would I invite this person who invited me to my wedding? And then
You have to.
yeah, but for some people, I'm not even that close to her inviting me to their wedding. So then I'm gonna take that into effect. Like, when I'm making my list, I'm like, would this person invite? I have to think in advance. Like, would this person invite me to their wedding? Like, is our bond that close enough that I would invite you to my wedding? You have to consider your friendships at this point. Like, that's what I think.
No,
Bro.
I'm picturing some more going to bed. He's got his list. He's checking it twice. He's like,
Everyone has a
awesome
list.
people.
Like,
Yeah.
you don't know that, but bro, like, people have to
Is
make
it
these
gonna be
lists.
Mr. and Mrs.?
You gotta
Is it
eat-
gonna be
yes.
two? Okay,
Yes.
is it gonna be
well, you
one?
struggled with that, right? Like
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I did feel horrible. Like, I had some married friends where I was like, I'm sorry you can't bring your husband. Because, like, I had to do it under 100. And you guys were there. I mean, I
Yeah.
consider you guys close. And you guys were there. And you guys saw how small my event was. And it's definitely not easy, right? But you have to do what you have to do.
Did any friends come back to you, like, mad at you because they weren't?
Oh,
I
yeah.
usually hate a
All
thousand
right, hey.
I never
dogs.
heard this man's
Hey, we
voice.
got battery, right? We good.
I never heard
Yeah,
this
we're good.
voice, so
All
I'm
right,
like,
we good.
who the hell is it?
Like,
All
did
right.
you really think I was gonna say hate him like that?
I don't know
Cool.
who it
Hey,
was, but
so-
that's what
so-
that's
so-
what.
Ready?
Sorry.
Let's go.
Go.
Cool. All right. Well, welcome back, guys. I guess we ran into some slight technical difficulties. So if you just missed us, we were talking about leaving people off your list of friends. And Tamor, he goes to bed at night and he has a list of people he wants to invite to his wedding. He's just checking them off, is what Tamor was telling us.
Dude, I don't remember what I was telling you guys. But I think I remember
But
asking.
we were
oh, no.
asking you on them, like, were people upset that
Can
you
I
cut
ask
them
my
off?
question? No. Okay, you can ask my question for her.
I wanted to take it.
Okay, that's a good question.
Honestly, if I'm being honest, no one
Be
came
honest.
up to me and said anything, which I'm pretty surprised about. But I think that just shows that I invited who really meant a lot to me in my life at the nikah, and other people who didn't, maybe I just talked to them here and there, weren't there. And if it really was, that big of a deal, someone would have came up to me and talked about it. But I think I invited the right amount of people. I invited the right friends. They were all close, so I think alhamdulillah it worked out. So personally, I know a lot of people have dealt with like hey, so I know you got married recently. Wasn't invited. Like
Yeah, they
alhamdulillah,
say
I didn't
that.
have to deal with that. So yeah.
I forgot what I was gonna say, but I think it was
Damn.
something along the lines of, yeah, man, we were having a good conversation before, but I was
Sorry,
gonna
things happen.
say, things happen, it's okay. But I was gonna say that when it comes to like guest lists and trying to condense it down, like we think like, this person isn't relevant. Like you said, you went to these weddings and like it didn't mean anything to you, like you were kind of just there for the food.
100%.
But
No shame in that.
when
Yeah.
we think about it, our parents, like, okay, let's think about it like this. A wedding isn't just like, the marriage itself isn't between two people, right? It's between two families. And I like to think that the wedding itself is also between two families. It's not just two people. So when you think about it that way, like, obviously there are people that the parents will want to invite. Like, you may not be close to them, but your parents have like dreams and they want to do for their kid's wedding, and they want to invite like these people. Like, you may not know them, but they're important to them. That's how I like to see it. That's why I feel like cutting people off of the list is really, really hard. That's also kind of why I'm team big wedding. And I know you said that like it doesn't really matter, they're irrelevant, but I feel like if you have more people there, like you have their blessings, what's
So-
the harm in that?
So honestly, you kind of took my point because I was going to transition to this. Who's the most important? Like, what's the tier list when you're planning a wedding? Whose opinion matters the most versus like, if this person said I want a water fountain with an igloo in the corner, you'd be like, no. So who
Parents.
matters?
I think the parents matter the most.
The most. I mean, it's the two people. And
I mean,
they have
yeah,
and then
but
from there we can branch
Yeah,
out to
obviously the two
everyone
people,
else,
and then I
yeah.
feel like the parents are like right there.
Yeah. What's the pecking order? Because I mean, or for you, what was the order?
Honestly, I can't put one person really ahead because I really felt like it was me and my husband, and then also me and his parents. Like, we had to really kind of compromise. Okay, mother-in-law wants this, but then my mom wants this, but then father-in-law wants this, but then Zishan and I want this. So it truly ended up being like a mixture. And alhamdulillah, again, it worked out for me. But like now I'm thinking in the like next year, inshallah, when I'm doing like my Rukhsati and everything, like I already know there's gonna be like me and Zishan not wanting a certain event, but parents really want an event, and so it's hard.
I know
it's
it's
definitely hard. But kind of going off of what Musani, your original question, I do think it should be the two people getting married first, but then parents. But it's very like
It's very
So-
close. It's very close.
yeah.
So I think girls, parents, guy.
Yeah, I'm
Right about
Is
there?
that
okay
really
with that.
what?
No.
Oh, 100%.
If you
Because
like
I've even
yourself-
seen my own friends who, you know, they might have wanted something for a wedding. You know, 'cause it's not like, I know there's that cliche that like you guys grew up and you're planning out your dream wedding, right? So that's why, you know, part of it probably plays in the fact that you said you wanted a bigger wedding. Now you're having a smaller wedding. You saying you want a big wedding. And I'm sure, you know, your child has influenced that. We're not sitting around drawing little sketchbooks about
I
what we
wasn't drawing
wanted.
sketchbooks
I mean, I didn't do
either.
that. I
Okay,
didn't do that
You know,
either,
that's all
but-
good.
I'm
But-
just kidding, I did.
I think part of the reason that it's harder to also have a big wedding is because there's so many voices and so many inputs. Versus
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
doing a small wedding, how much leeway do you even have, right? So that's definitely one benefit of a small wedding. I don't know if you guys see it. Like,
I feel like it's easier though with the big wedding because you kind of just throw in what everyone wants.
I think it's just hard. Like,
And you
whose,
get away
whose
with
ideas
it.
do you listen to?
Yeah.
I'm
I
speaking
just feel like
from.
it's easier. 'cause
So
I'm
there's too
speaking
much
from
going
my
on at that
experience.
point.
Like I'm speaking from my experience with like my cousins and like their
Yeah.
parents and all of that. That's what I'm.
So
speaking
I've
off
seen this
of.
with my friends, right? Like they'll get married, and then their future wife wants something, but then their mother wants something, and then her mother wants something, and then they're now being pulled back and forth a lot about. At this point they don't even want anything. I just want this to be done, you know. So I think when you have a bigger wedding, I agree. Like it might honestly be easier. Like, oh, I want this, I want that. Put it all together, make it happen. Versus, with a smaller wedding, I think the only thing that you can compromise on is like your guests because you know you're limited. But like, what if someone wants, for example, like someone doesn't like a particular type of food, so they'd rather serve like these types of dishes versus these types of dishes, or like someone wants, a really elaborate like mehndi setup, but you can't have that. So I think that's one of the reasons that it all comes down to like
But
the
there's a
money end of it and the
difference between,
financial end
like,
of it, but.
But
I
that's the
think
thing.
it's
There's
tough.
a difference between like you can have it or like you can make it work. Like if you can't have it, then it should just be on the table. Period. Because I mean that's what's.
But I think
Like
that
you-
comes back to the point that you're saying that it's not just, two people getting married, it's two families getting married. There's a lot of chefs in this kitchen.
I know, but like I feel like even the parents know like what they can. I feel like
We
the
all cooking
parents.
something
Listen
up.
to me, guys. I feel like the parents know too, like going in, like this is our budget. We're not gonna go over our budget to like plan a wedding. I don't think anyone's parents would ever
Yeah.
do that, right?
I mean,
I don't know. I haven't been married yet.
I'm
Can't
sorry,
tell
I'm
you.
speaking from
I don't know what the
experience. I
planning
mean, not
process
personal
looks
experience
like.
from like seeing other
Something like
people's
Nazish?
experience. No,
Something you're
not
not telling
my
us?
experience. I'm seeing
Oh
it like
my
I said,
God.
my cousins and
So-
everything.
I want to bring it back to one more point too, though, that I think makes it a lot easier to have a big wedding. Your elders matter a lot.
100%.
Because there's things that they want to see, and I think especially especially for Muslims, like the value that we place on our elders is so big. Like I've had people tell me, like other religions, like you put them in a nursing facility, a nursing home, and you call it a day. But like we live with our grandparents and our uncles and aunts and whatever,
Alhamdulillah
right?
for that.
So in those situations, they also have things that they want to see. So it's not just your parents. So that's why I'm like, a bigger wedding, like you can cut the pie in enough ways for everyone to get a little bit of what they want.
Yeah. But don't you think it's harder that way for a smaller wedding?
yeah, obviously if it's smaller, then you have to cut all these people out, right? But, one thing I do kind of want to move on, but also not
Yeah.
move on in a sense, because one thing that we kind of touched on, but that I think is a really big factor in this is budgeting and your
Yeah.
budget. The whole idea of our weddings can be so extravagant that people do end up taking out loans, which I
It's
find
crazy.
insane, right? I find that to be really, really insane.
If you're taking out a loan for your wedding, like you gotta know your priorities. I don't think that's
And
Because
that's what I was
reasonable.
gonna ask
Yeah.
you.
Oh,
Would
that
you
makes
guys
sense.
do that? If you were
Nah.
in a situation where, let's say
100%
you
no.
want a big wedding, you know you can't afford it, but you really want a big wedding, would
No,
you take out a loan
it's not
for it?
worth
No.
it. No way.
No,
Okay.
not for a wedding.
This is
Car.
So
I don't
this
know
is so
about car,
unfortunate. See,
wedding,
I don't like to have all you guys say no.
No, be reasonable.
the
be
common sense in me is gonna say no, obviously,
Yeah.
bro. But I can also see that if somebody wanted that and they already live. Think about somebody that's just fresh out of school and they're getting a really high-paying job. You're not gonna have the money up front to do that right now.
But I
I
don't.
think in that situation, if you wanted a loan,
But do you
want
to put yourself in that position though?
For
Because
real.
you never know
I
what's gonna
wouldn't.
happen later.
But could somebody else do it? Somebody else
You-
could for
you
sure
don't
do
know
it.
the
What if
risk
you
of
get a
that.
nice little job paying you 150 grand? You got a nice signing bonus, and you're gonna have that money.
But you
you're just not
never
having that money on
know
hand
for
right
sure.
now.
You never know for sure. That's the thing. Like
I
you
never know for
what's
sure
gonna
that paycheck
happen.
comes in on the 15th and 30th.
You never know what's gonna happen in the end. Like, do you think you're gonna be sitting on that loan? Like, who knows?
You're
for
supposed to
how
be my
long?
side here.
Listen, I'm talking about in the sense of a loan. This is a loan.
I'm
This is
saying,
different.
I get it. I wouldn't do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the common sense in me says I wouldn't do
We
it.
gonna rent out Walt Disney World for you, and then it's all gonna be you in the castle, bro. That's gonna be your loan. You're
Oh
gonna
my
be like,
God.
play
But
with
I'm
that for
saying,
the rest of your
if
life.
that's what you wanted, if that's like the standard that your family is like, let's think about it, right? Go back to that Sora. The whole idea was within your means, right?
Yeah.
Your means could be that. It's just you don't have that money on tap right now. That doesn't
But
mean
that's
I
not
don't
your
think
means
that you
then.
can't.
Bro,
Yeah, no.
if you're
your
go-
means,
if
but what
you're
you
set-
have on like demand, like in my pocket
I
right
don't know.
now.
I don't
like,
see that as means, bro.
I think that's what
I
that's
think
what
that's what it is too.
Islamically
Like
it should
right
be.
here,
Like
right
what
now.
you're
Can I afford this
permissible.
right now? Like I'm not thinking like 10 years in the future.
I always end up in this position because I take the side that nobody else wants
You
to take.
asked- I actually had a question for Unum, but it doesn't even relate to
Go ahead.
this. So it was like, okay, so me and Wasani been pretty evidently clear about how like he said it himself. It's girls' opinion, parents, and then guy, because guy does not.
Parents, elders,
like, we don't have that-
Gang get us.
Yeah, like we don't have that
It's
much.
not that low.
You guys like imagine your weddings as growing up, and you have all these pictures and dreams and stuff, right? So I had a question like. I hope it doesn't get too personal, but for you and Zishan, right? Like you had a list and he had a list of people who wanted to invite, like your friends or his friends. Did your list, was it 50-50? Like was it like, oh, I'm inviting these friends? And like was the amount of people, was it 50-50 or was it more like, I think knowing me, I'd be like, if whoever has a,
Some
if,
more sacrificing spots.
yeah, I'd
He said,
sacrifice.
"All
I'd
right,
be
I'll
like,
give away
listen,
these 10 shares.
listen, I'd be like, you can have 60% because you want this more than I do, and if I have space, and then I'll give it to her.
like
type.
unneeded space. right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'd be
Moore
like, you
just
can
wants
invite that
his
one friend of
17
yours from that
boys,
one
and
day.
that's it.
We from the very start wanted to keep it equal.
Okay.
So if my list, if I have 50 seats, he has 50 seats, and we're not going above 50 seats. So we had that from the very beginning, and that's why I'm saying it was very difficult to kind of keep it at that and keep it under like how many people we wanted. But alhamdulillah, it worked out, right? Because we both knew that we wanted to keep only a specific amount of people at our nikah, so there's no buts or ifs. Like the 50, you better pick and choose.
Mhm.
So for us, it alhamdulillah worked out, but I know it's not always like that, right? So I guess it's also just like kind of
Prioritizing.
where are your priorities? Like, and one thing I wanted to talk about or just mention too, like, hold on, I'm like blinking now. Someone else take it.
All right, I was
Can
gonna
I-
ask. Do you want to add something
No,
real
go
quick?
ahead.
I was gonna ask. I think I kind of want to wrap back around to like the main problem here, right? It's, would you rather do a wedding in the Islamic sense or in the cultural sense? Because I feel like for
Like,
however long
strictly one or the
we've
other,
done
right?
this podcast, that seems to be a recurring theme that there's always an issue and a disconnect between the two. So like, where are
Like,
you leaning? How are
strictly
you
one or the
balancing
other.
culture, right? Like, are you guys both doing small weddings because it's Islamically appropriate? Was that the idea?
I kind of wanted to go. I'm a very cultural person, but for my wedding, I would think I wanted to go just based like I wanted.
The Islamic
I
route?
mean, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna come back to you in
one
1 second.
Okay.
Yeah. What?
Okay, cool. Are you gonna have dancing at your wedding?
Okay, I see what you're doing.
Stirring the
Yes.
pot.
Yeah, I will.
Stirring
Okay.
I will. But I'm not gonna have 19 events
Then I
like all
wanna-
these other people.
Then like,
for
how are
sure.
you picking and choosing? You know what I mean? Like, where are you?
Hold on.
Where are you drawing the line,
Ask me
right?
the question, ask me the question.
No, I avoided. I knew that.
What you mean?
What are you
Oh yeah, ask her the
I'm
question.
not stupid. You think Unum's
I have a
dancing?
good answer.
Okay,
Like,
let's hear her
If
answer.
anyone else
I
is
wanna hear her.
struggling.
All right, go ahead.
I really wanted a Mendy, right? I really wanted a Mendy, but after kind of figuring it out and realizing it's probably not the best and wanting to
didn't know
have
this.
a more Islamic marriage, I'm most likely not going to have a Mendy next year, but that's when the parents come in because I know my parents really want to have that event. So
So
you-
you, so hold on. So you're still gonna have it.
So she gonna have
We
it,
don't know.
but she don't want
She
it.
don't want
We'll
it.
see who wins.
She
basically.
kind of want it, but she doesn't want it. But it might happen.
Yeah.
yeah, I'll keep you updated.
That just, you just found like the little loophole.
Yeah, you kind of did actually.
No, but if you're asking me, then I probably
I-
wouldn't have it.
You wouldn't? I'm
I think
gonna be
that's
honest,
props
I
to you,
would.
yeah, because I think
about, you have to, guys. I mean, obviously it's marriage, but you also have to think like, what does my husband want? What does my wife want? Like, and for me personally, my husband doesn't like these kind of things, so I wouldn't want to have an entire event where he's just gonna sit there and be like, I'm so uncomfortable.
Then yeah, there's no point if both of you don't enjoy
Like,
it.
I'm obviously talking off of my experience, but this is just how you have to think about these different things, you know. And I'm
It's
not saying it's
different
always
for
gonna be
everyone.
easy, but there's so many layers to it, and I guess I'm just kind of pointing those layers
That's fair.
out.
And I think that's like the whole point of having this convo, right? Because big wedding, small wedding, that's such a vague term. And it comes down to the fact that if you're going to do a bigger wedding, one, you probably know a lot of people. You're living within your means, and you want one that's more cultural.
Yeah.
If you're doing a small wedding, you know,
100%.
you're being conscious of the Islamic decisions that you're making. I think that's what the big portion of this conversation is about, is that there's a huge disconnect between the two. And however you do it, at the end of the day, I think it just comes back to you and what you value. Not to say that doesn't mean that you don't value Islam or you don't value being a Muslim. It's just,
I mean, because culture does matter too. I mean, it matters to
It
people
does.
who grew up with
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's a big part of you.
I mean, we laid down the facts in the beginning of this episode, so you know, we said what was true Islamically, right? And then now it's all based on
personal
what you
preference
would-
and opinion.
Yeah.
So I actually think that's a pretty good point to leave it off of, unless you guys have any other comments.
This is
I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think
Are you guys
I
all
think,
still firm on your decisions though?
I think on our end, and I know you. If we're going back on the hierarchy, if anyone above you says big, you're gonna be like, all right, fine, big.
Yeah.
But to you, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Oh.
To me, it
No,
doesn't.
I think we're on the same way. So.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Oh, okay. With that being said.
With that being
So annoying.
Go ahead.
yeah,
take
with
it.
that being said, thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more episodes.
Dude,
like,
let us know in the
comment,
comments too. No,
subscribe.
let us know in the comments if
Oh,
you
yeah,
want a
please
big
let us know in the
wedding or a
comments.
small wedding. If you think there's any situations that we talked about where you could see a big wedding being feasible or a small wedding being feasible, like, we'd love to hear your opinion.
For real, for real. All right. Assalamu alaikum, y'all. Peace.